In at number 5 we have Ava in Ava's Possession. Ava's Possession debuted at the Dead by Dawn Horror Film Festival in 2015 and centers around a young woman named Ava that has recently been possessed and successfully exorcised, but now she must learn how to put her life back together. The film begins with the priest successfully completing an exorcism on Ava, who is stunned to find out that she has spent the last 28 days possessed by the demon Nafula. This demon was based on a natural real-life demon by the name of Vapula, who is a powerful Great Duke of Hell that commands 36 legions of demons and is depicted as a griffin-winged lion. This demon is a fallen angel and 60th of the 72 spirits of Solomon and has skills in philosophy, mechanics, and sciences. Vapula, also known as Nafula, is mentioned in many readings throughout history, especially in the world of demonology, magic, and witchcraft. After Ava's exorcism, she went from bad to worse when her actions brought her to cause serious emotional and physical damage, which resulted in losing her job, friends, boyfriends, and potential jail time. Her family urged Ava to accept a plea deal that would spare her jail time or committed to a facility for troubled ex-possessed people if she attended a rehabilitation program for the recently exorcised. Ava began attending this program and it was urged that she took it seriously. If she didn't, it was very likely the demon would return to her and she would become possessed once again. At a group meeting in the facility, Ava meets Hazel, a fellow ex-possessed person that wants her demon to return since she enjoyed its presence and felt it was special for both of them. While Ava is trying to remember her missing 28 days, she discovers bloodstains on her floor and is led to a clue where she soon finds out that when the demon possessed her, she had murdered someone, and she is just constantly thinking what she did to become a target of Nafula. After finishing the program, she soon starts to get her life back together until Ava discovers some old files revealing that her mother has also been previously possessed by the same demon, resulting in her finding out their bloodline is prone to possessions. Fun times. In at number 4 we have Pazuzu. Pazuzu is a fictional character who is the main demon in the Exorcist horror novels and film series created by William Peter Blatty. The character of this demon was derived from Assyrian Babylonian mythology, where the mythic Pazuzu was considered the king of the demons of the wind and the son of the god Hambi. He also represents the southwestern wind, the bearer of storms and drought. This demon is known to bring famine during dry seasons and excessive water during the rainy season, and is considered to be an evil spirit by all. Pazuzu is often depicted as a combination of diverse animal and human parts. He has the body of a man, the head of a lion or dog, talons of an eagle, 2 pairs of wings, and a scorpion's tail. Pazuzu first appeared in the Exorcist novel in 1971. The novel is about a 12-year-old girl, Regan McNeil, that gets possessed by a demon. The demon is later revealed to be Pazuzu. Even though they never state that he is the demon, 2 references were made about this statue, which was uncovered by Father Lancaster Merrin in northern Iraq. After Regan's mother worries about her daughter being possessed, 2 priests, Merrin and Karras, arrive at their house to perform an exorcism on Regan to force the demon out of her body, but in their struggle to free Regan from Pazuzu, both priests die. 2 years after the novel was published, The Exorcist was released in theaters as a motion picture. In the second installment of The Exorcist, Pazuzu is named as the demon and returns to haunt Regan. The demon is prevalent in each and every movie released. In the 4th Exorcist, Pazuzu was actually shown in his first encounter with Father Merrin in Africa. After the movies, The Exorcist became a television series and Pazuzu continued to pursue Regan and possessed and killed her daughter. After killing Casey, the demon is able to possess Regan again and is almost able to take complete control of her mind. With the help from a priest, Regan tries to fight back against Pazuzu and the demon is successfully exorcised from Regan's body. William Peter Blatty's creation of Pazuzu and The Exorcist was based on heavily reported series of events from 1949. Fun fact, there is a true crime case involving a man named John Alexander Lawson that was a self-proclaimed Satanist and demonology lover. He was inspired by the famous demon Pazuzu and changed his name to Pazuzu to pay homage to the demon reference in the movie The Exorcist. In at number 3 we have The Taking of Deborah Logan. The movie The Taking of Deborah Logan is a 2014 American found footage supernatural horror film. It tells the story of a documentary crew making a film about Alzheimer's patients who uncover something sinister while documenting a woman who has the disease. The filmmakers and writers did not base this movie and characters on real life. Deborah Logan is a fictional demon, but the most terrifying nonetheless. Though in the beginning they tried to make it appear as a real person, this film is about a team of students, Maya, Gavin, and Louie, who to create a documentary about a woman named Deborah Logan, an elderly woman who has Alzheimer's disease. As the film crew records her daily life, Deborah starts to exhibit increasingly bizarre behavior, but her physician believed this is normal for someone with an aggressive form of Alzheimer's. The cameraman, Luz, begins to notice that her actions defy normal explanation and believe that something supernatural is going on. Things grow more tense after the group notice that they have a recording of Deborah of her talking in French, talking about snakes and sacrifices, and her behavior becomes so extreme that she is hospitalized. Deborah is possessed by Henry Henry Desjardins, who had disappeared after a series of cannibalistic ritualized murders of 4 girls. If you want to find out more about this possession, you should watch the movie. There is no confirmed ending, and that is the most terrifying part of this demonic movie. Even though it's not based on true events, it really makes you feel like it is. It was voted 91% on Rotten Tomatoes, and Ain't It Cool News called it found footage done right and stated that it's one of the most effective entries in the popular subgenre of found footage horror. Coming in at number 2, Dybbuk, The Possession. The Possession is a 2012 supernatural horror thriller based on an article written by Leslie Goldstein called Jinx in a Box, and the story that was created by Kevin Mannis. In 2003, writer and furniture refinishing business owner Kevin Mannis purchased a cabinet from a yard sale and claimed it was haunted by a Dybbuk, a concept from Jewish mythology. The word Dybbuk comes from the Hebrew word evil. The term appears in a number of 16th century writings and is a malicious possessing spirit believed to be the dislocated soul of a dead person. It supposedly leaves the host body once it has accomplished its goal, or after being exorcised. The box gained notoriety when Kevin auctioned it off on eBay, including the story claiming that the cabinet was previously owned by a survivor of the Holocaust in Poland, who said it contained the malicious spirit of a Dybbuk, and that the box had paranormal powers and was responsible for this bad luck and nightmares. This box went through a few hands before being sold to Jason Haxton for $280. The museum curator and collector of religious paraphernalia began to research the source of the box and launched a website about it called dybbukbox.com that reportedly received hundreds of thousands of hits and created what's been described as an internet legend. In 2004, Jason sold the rights to the story to a Hollywood production company, and that created the 2012 release of The Possession. The movie tells the story of this so-called demon box, when a dad begins to witness his young daughter acting strangely following the purchase of an antique wooden box with Hebrew markings on it at a yard sale. The little girl became more and more obsessed with this box, and her behavior becomes increasingly erratic and alarming, ultimately leading to the girl becoming possessed by the demon haunting the box. In 2021, Kevin Mannis came out and told Input magazine that the Dybbuk box story was entirely fictional, that he came up with it. And finally, in at number 1, we have The Exorcism of Anneliese Michel. Anna Elisabeth Anneliese Michel was a German woman who underwent 67 Catholic exorcisms over the span of a year, and her story inspired the 2005 film The Exorcism of Emily Rose, the award-winning 2006 film Requiem, and the 2011 film Anneliese The Exorcist Tapes. When Anneliese was 16, she began to experience seizures and was diagnosed with psychosis caused by temporal lobe epilepsy. Shortly after, she was also diagnosed with depression and was treated by a psychiatric hospital. By the time she was 20, she began to hear voices telling her that she was damned and would rot in hell, and began to hallucinate while she was praying. Her conditions began to worsen, was depressive, and put on different types of medication. After 5 years on psychiatric medication failed to improve her, Anneliese and her family believed she was possessed by a demon. As a result, the family reached out to the Catholic Church for an exorcism. While rejected at first, 2 priests got permission from the local bishop in 1975. The priest believed Anneliese was in fact possessed by a powerful demon from hell, and knew they needed to do anything they could to force this creature out of the girl's body. The priest began conducting exorcism sessions, but through all of this she stopped eating food and passed away due to malnourishment and dehydration after a total of 67 exorcism sessions. The story of Anneliese is still told by many to this day, and it's believed to be one of the most real and powerful stories of demon possession in history. Coming in at number 5, we have Shadow Dog. One Reddit user told the story of a contact she had with a demon when she was younger. Her parents had just divorced when she was a teenager. She decided that she would live with her mother in her new home. As soon as she moved in, she started to experience some paranormal activity. It started small. She'd be reading her books on her bed when she suddenly felt an icy chill take over her. Then she would feel like she was being watched by an entity that hated her, but obviously there was no one else in the room. She said when she felt this, she would leave her house and go for a walk for more than an hour. Usually by this time the feeling had passed. She then started to see shadows behind her, like there was someone stood in the room with her. This started to get worse when she would see the shadows move around her bedroom walls. They were getting bolder in their contact with her. The demon then started to imitate their family dog. She thinks this might have been a way to trick her into making a physical connection with the demon, allowing it to take full possession. The demon would make a growling noise from under her bed, like her dog was in need of help. The dog had refused to enter the room for months at this point, so she was not fooled by the demon. After this, she could not stay there anymore, with the demon becoming bolder and increasingly active. She moved in with her father, and she never experienced anything paranormal again. I do appreciate that she was like, screw you mum, I'm leaving, you stay with the dog in this haunted house. Her mother's probably gone now, R.I.P. Demon got her. In at number 4, we have texting the devil. Demons could choose any form of communication with the living. They are not bound by our laws of reality reality. Sometimes they choose possession, others will only talk through a medium or Ouija board, but still one priest claims he is being contacted by a demon via text messages. Father Marian Rachel, a priest from Poland, claims that a demon from a failed exorcism is now harassing him. He attempted to perform the exorcism on a teenage girl but unfortunately was unsuccessful. He believed the devil is using this teenage girl to mock his failed attempt via these text messages. One of the messages that he received from the demon was, I quote, "She will not come out of this hell. She's mine. Anyone who prays for her will perish." The priest responded to this that the young girl is clearly still possessed and needs further help. The Catholic Church took this extremely seriously. Although there were some doubters, the majority of the community was extremely concerned about this young girl and her behavior since the possession began. The family of the girl cooperated fully with the church to try and save their sick daughter. They brought her back in for a second exorcism. This one seems to have been successful as far as they're aware. The priest did comment that he received a threatening message after the girl was saved from the demon. They threatened that the two would meet again and he would not be able to save himself next time. The priest, however, remains confident he has rid the world of this demon. He was calm and confident about the whole thing. I don't think I would enjoy texting with the devil. To be honest, I think it's probably the girl playing a little Halloween trick. Coming in at number 3, we have Dark Letter. Back when letter writing was still a thing that was commonly done, it was used by demons to leave messages with the living. Over 300 years ago in Sicily at the convent at Parma di Montechiero, a nun named Sister Maria Crocifissa claimed that she had been possessed by the devil. The story of what happened to her has finally been told and her letter has finally been translated. The story is told that one morning in 1676, Sister Maria woke up and found herself covered in ink. She had no memory of it but had spent the night writing letters. Others in the convent had heard disturbances from her room during the night. Some had heard screaming. One said they heard a thud as if she was fainting and hit the floor. Maria had lived at the convent since she was 15 years old. She was devoted to them and had never showed signs of possession or doubt before this incident. The letters explained that Maria was writing on behalf of the devil. He was dictating the words she wrote. The letter said it was Lucifer's plan to possess Maria and turn her against God so she could serve evil. A lot of the letters were coded in hidden messages of symbols and shapes and they had no way to translate it at the time. Today, some of the letters are still intact and the Ludum Science Center in Italy attempted to finally decode a portion of the text. The software is reportedly used by intelligence agencies for code breaking. They gave the machine the understanding of Greek, Arabic, the runic alphabet, and Latin. This revealed that the text really was devilish. It described God as a dead weight. It went on to say God could not free mortals from their fate. There is also a reference made within the writing to the river Styx, which in Greek mythology is said to separate the realm of the living from the underworld. The church was trying to disprove that the nun was ever possessed. If anything, decoding the letter proved the opposite. Maria seems to have been very lucky that the possession didn't go further. In at number 2, we have Singapore Doll. We all know that demons have an attachment to creepy dolls. There are so many stories of dolls coming to life and terrorizing families. For one unlucky neighborhood in Singapore, an old doll appeared and started to terrorize those who took it home. One Twitter user told the story to her followers as a warning. The doll first appeared leaning against a tree on a busy residential street. The doll was small and looked like an antique. Her arms were bound to her body with string and she had a cloth across her eyes with Arabic text written across it. The girl brought the doll home and unbound her while also removing her blindfold. She said not long after bringing the doll home, she noticed that it would move around the home when left alone. She also said that she would hear it talking to itself when she left the room. It was clear to her that the doll was possessed. It soon made sense why it was bound when she found it. Although she did not know the doll's backstory, it seems the previous owner has a similar experience. She threw the doll away hoping to stop the demon from being in her home. However, when she returned, the doll was back home. It knew how to return to her home when it was refusing to leave. She decided to try and bind the doll as she found it. She drove far away from her home and left the doll. Seems that the doll had been continuing this cycle. When you find and untie the doll, the demon and curse transfers to you. The owner saw someone post about finding the doll after she had left it. She saw that it had been untied and posted, "We bind it for a reason, stupid people, unbind it. It looks unhappy. Good luck to whoever did it." Her account has since been deleted so she couldn't be tracked down for questions or for them to attempt to return the doll. The doll's current location is unknown but its existence is now well known in the area. There have been discussions and crimes happening in the locations where the doll has been seen. Crimes that have never happened in these areas. The doll seems to communicate with other demons while alone and then whispers to its new owner when given the chance. Some suggested the doll be burned or crushed, but it is unclear if this would work. Surely someone has already tried this at some point. And finally, in at number 1 we have Imagine imaginary friend. Sometimes children have imaginary friends and we don't think anything of it, but what if their friend isn't so imaginary? One little girl from Texas named Madison had many imaginary friends when she was younger. All of her imaginary friends came as a pair. When she was 3 years old, she started to talk about a new friend. Her mother, Kelly, found this strange as this friend came around by themselves. Her new friend was called Kellum. She described him as a man around the age of 40. She said she saw him as a father figure. She started to spend a lot of her time playing with him rather than her other imaginary friends. She would build her blocks into a tower and knock them over as it made him laugh. The mother was keeping an eye on her with this latest friend but was not concerned until she started to sing an old song. At the time she didn't know how old the song was. Madison would sing the song all of the time. Her mother asked the nanny where the song is from, thinking she taught her it. She wanted to sing it with her to develop her language skills, but the nanny had never heard the song before. She had no idea where it was from. They looked into it everywhere until they finally found it online and realized it was an old song. It was released in 1892. No one in their life would be familiar with this song. She asked Madison who taught her the song. She said Kellum taught her. He sings it to his child. This shocked Kelly. This imaginary friend has an imaginary baby and he is teaching her real songs. She could not find an explanation for it. Things quickly began to get worse. Maybe Kellum had been watching Kelly figuring out he is more than an imaginary friend, but maybe he was an entity communicating with her daughter. One night Madison woke up screaming. When she was older she told the story that Kellum was grabbing onto her arm, pulling on her. He was getting angry and frustrated that she did not want to stay up and play. She kicked him away and tried to flee the room. She was screaming as she tried to climb the baby gate. Kelly was woken up by the screaming and ran and grabbed Madison as she cried for help. Kelly looked back to the room where the curtains were blowing like there was a great wind in the room, but the windows were all closed. They fled their home. Safely relocated at their friend's home, Kelly called her stepfather, who was a pastor. He did not believe in demons, and if she had come to him sooner, the community might have labeled her a sinner for inviting this entity into her home, but she was desperate. Her stepfather told her to stay away from the home till he was done. He called her the next morning saying it was safe to return. When she got home, holy oil had been used all over the house to protect them. They both said it felt peaceful when they re-entered their home. Madison never saw any of her imaginary friends again. Now she is older and able to reflect on it. She feels the demon was talking to her, telling her stories and attempting to get her to behave badly.
Number 5 on this list is the Battleesque. The Battleesque is a beast in Italian folklore that is said to annoy the living hell out of the villagers it's nearby. Bestiarium says, in the Val Carmonica, a valley in the central Italian Alps region, there is a local celebration which is connected to a legend about a mythical monster. This monster is the Battleesque, a creature with a huge head and large mouth, adorned with 2 tiny horns and 2 brightly glowing eyes. According to the local legend, the terrible Battleesque lived in the woods in Andrista, a small village. Actually, terrible is an overstatement. It did little harm, but it did constantly annoy the locals. As punishment, the beast was captured as the locals used a beautiful girl as bait to trap and capture the lusty beast. It was fought by a hunchbacked folk hero. So they hold a festival for the demon thing every year. There's a parade and they get a costume for it made from goat skin. The whole village participates in it and it's a whole big affair that's going on. However, there are a few select elders who don't participate. Whilst everyone is out and about having fun, drinking, and making merry, this select group of elders is inside being very careful with what they do. Apparently, this group was around when this beast first came to being. They saw it firsthand, and they don't agree with the way that people are treating it. In their opinion, the legend has been thoroughly exaggerated, and this creature isn't as kind as everyone wants to believe. They are under the impression that constantly doing this year in and year out is going to anger the creature, and one year it will finally unleash its wrath upon the village. Now, no one knows if this is true or not, or if it's just a bunch of people being really paranoid. However, I would tend to believe the people who claim to have seen this thing firsthand, rather than those who are just looking for an excuse to get drunk. Number 4 on this list is Streiska. This is a demon very similar to a vampire that can be found in parts of Italy. Wikipedia says a Streiska is a usually female demon somewhat similar to vampires in Slavic and especially Polish folklore. People who were born with 2 hearts and 2 souls and 2 sets of teeth, the second one barely visible, were believed to be Streiska. Somnambulics, or people without armpit hair, could also be seen as one. Furthermore, a newborn child with already developed teeth was also believed to be one. When a person was identified as a Streiska, they were chased away from human-dwelling places. During epidemics, people were getting buried alive, and those who managed to get out of their graves, often weak, ill, and with mutilated hands, were said to be Streiski by others. It is said that Streiski usually died at a young age, but according to belief, only one of their 2 souls would pass to the afterlife. The other soul was believed to cause the deceased Streiska to come back to life and prey upon living beings. These undead creatures were believed to fly at night in a form of an owl and attack nighttime travelers and people who had wandered off into the woods at night, sucking out their blood and eating their insides. Streiska were also believed to be satisfied with animal blood for a short period of time. Whatever version of the Streiska is proven to be correct, it really isn't good either way. They're either personally coming to kill and suck your blood, or they're indicating that we're about to die. The way that you protect yourself is pretty similar to vampires. Burning the body of one of these creatures or putting a stake through it are proven methods of getting rid of them. Also, for some reason, slapping it across the face with your left hand is said to help. Not sure if I want to be the one trying that method though. Number 3 on this list is dragons. Now, I know that dragons aren't technically demons, but they are pretty bloody terrifying in my opinion, and for that reason I think they deserve some love on this list. Italy has quite the history with dragons and has had some pretty big ones in the past. Dragon's Wish says, one of the most famous dragons of Italian folklore is Tyrus, a wyvern that besieged Terni in the Middle Ages. One day, a young and brave knight of the noble house of Cittadini, tired of witnessing the death of his fellow citizens and depopulation of Terni, faced the dragon and killed him. The town, from that day onwards, adopted the dragon in its coat of arms and accompanied by a Latin inscription, Tyrus e annis dederent signa terraminis, that stands under the banner of the town of Terni, honoring this legend. This is just the most famous legend of a dragon in Italy, but it doesn't mean that it's the only one. There have been other reports of dragons in Italy as well, and some of them have been very scary. At the end of the day, a dragon, in my opinion, is just as bad, if not worse, than a demon. If I had to go one-on-one versus a dragon or a demon, I might try my luck with the demon, guys, because there's no way I'm going to be able to survive the dragon. Number 2 on this list is the Lariossauro. This creature is an evil serpent living in one of Italy's big bodies of water, and it's said to be a servant of the devil. Yoair writes, meet Lariossauro, Italy's own Loch Ness monster. According to Italian folklore, Lariossauro lives in Lake Como, which lies 30 miles to the north of Milan and is one of the deepest European lakes. In November 1946, 2 hunters claimed that they saw a huge animal resembling a reptile swimming in the lake. It had red scales and was about 12 meters in length. Upon firing their rifles, Italy's Nessie disappeared into the center of the lake with a hissing sound. The creature was named after Lariosauros balsami, a prehistoric reptile whose fossilized remains were discovered in the lake in 1830. More sightings followed at the lake. In 1954, a creature with a round muzzle and webbed paws was spotted by a father and his son. Then, in August 1957, another monster was allegedly seen by natives. A month later, in the same year, an animal was spotted in the lake, this time whose head resembled that of a crocodile. The last sighting was in 2003, and it looked more like a giant eel. It's got tons of different forms, and no one knows exactly what form it will show up as next. One thing is clear though, it's guarding whatever is at the bottom of this lake. Some people think that the devil has some type of gate there, or that he's working on creating a gate. Until the gate is fully functional and ready to bring creatures from hell to our world, the devil has employed the capabilities of this underwater beast to guard it. This is all just a theory, but no one knows for sure, so we should probably do some digging pretty soon, folks, and figure out what's going on underneath the water. And number 1 on this list is the Ferocious Beast. I wish I had a more descriptive name for you guys, but that is literally what it has been called. The Ferocious Beast. This is a demon creature that resembled a wolf and was around several hundred years ago. An enormous animal similar to a wolf, it ate pets and children and terrorized Milan during the 1790s, and the Milanese organized a hunt against it. After months, they killed the Ferocious Beast and displayed its body at the university at Pavia, but it's no longer there and has been missing for decades. Informal sources claim it was stolen, destroyed during World War II, or removed specifically by German actions during that war. So there are a lot of rumors that have circulated about what actually happened to this beast, but something that wasn't brought up there was that it still might be alive. Yes, it was killed back in the day, but now with this pelt mysteriously vanishing, people are thinking that this thing could have come back to life. Now this would have been with the help of the devil himself. The legend says that the devil realized how deadly this beast was to us humans. He saw some serious potential here and didn't want to let it go to waste. So he finally decided to come back and claim the pelt and then bring this thing back to life, but as a servant of the devil. Now its main goal is to serve as a demonic hellhound and claim as many bodies as it can before it's killed once again. Although killing it a second time is going to be a lot harder, considering now it has demonic abilities to go along with it. Number 5 on this list is the Lakinon. These are tricky demons, and if they approach you, then you need to be very wary. Wikipedia says the Lakinons are a race of elf-like creatures in Philippine mythology. In Visayans, they were believed to be handsome and beautiful creatures that resemble nobles and monarchs of the pre-Hispanic Philippines. They dwell on Dalakit trees, hence the name Lakinon, which literally means from the Dalakit or Dakit tree. This mythological race exhibits sexual dimorphism, the men having light-colored skin and very dark hair, and women having bronze-brown skin and brown hair. Stories say that they have leaf-shaped pointy ears, depicted in modern times as gothic, like tall, handsome males and beautiful females. They dress in fashionable manner, live in the haunted house-like mansions, and try to fit in with mortal people. Some believe that the only way to Dalakit, their dwelling place, is by entering the Dalakit trees. These creatures abduct people and take them back to this world. They hold a feast for their victims and force them to eat the black rice that then puts them under their spell, making them their slaves. So that sounds like the actual worst. You get taken to their mystical land and then forced to eat this rice, which, I mean, I can only imagine is gonna be something really gross, because then it makes you their slave. My question is, what the hell does becoming their slave even entail? Like, what is this world that I now live in, and what is it that I have to do here? I guess I'm in some evil elf-like hell or something, but that doesn't really sound like a great time. The biggest problem with this is that you need to be super vigilant, or else it's very likely that they could get you. If you don't notice those pointy ears, then that could be game over, guys. Number 4 on this list is the Malinhig. The Malinhig are sort of like the Philippines version of a zombie. Myths and folklore says, in the Philippine mythology, the Malinhig or Marinhig are flightless aswang that came back to life after death. They rise from their grave after failing to pass their power to a relative. Upon rising from the grave, these Malinhig lurk in the woods and live as bloodsuckers. At night, they go to nearby villages to prey on the residents using their sharp, pointed tongue. Aside from the Malinhig of Aswang origins, some deceased humans could also turn into a Malinhig. These are people who died with unfinished business or were murdered and came back for revenge. The Malinhig with unfinished business are relentless in pursuing the persons they have chosen to fulfill their goals. Avenging a Malinhig tickle their victims to death while sucking their life force. According to one legend a long time ago, before the Spaniards came to the Philippines, a chieftain ordered his priestess to create an army of warriors that couldn't be killed. These immortals were created by killing ordinary men and encrusting their bodies with dark soot, putting a strange pebble in their mouths and doing other rituals. After 3 days, they came back to life, but they were mindless, walking corpses that only died after accomplishing their task. They had me right up until I learned that they tickle their victims to death. Like, don't get me wrong, I still do not want to run into something like this, but I guess it's just hard to be scared of something that's gonna tickle me to death. The whole sucking my life force thing, yeah, that sounds like the worst. I don't want any part of that. But tickling? Really? We couldn't have come up with any other way of murdering people, guys? Number 3 on this list is the Pugot. I get serious Stranger Things Demogorgon vibes with this next demon creature. Myths and folklore says, in the Philippine mythology, the Pugot, which translates to the decapitated one, is a mythical fiend that's found in the Ilocos region. It can assume various shapes such as hogs, dogs, or even as humans. However, it usually appears as a black, gigantic, headless being. The creature usually resides in dark places or deserted houses. However, they especially like living in trees such as the duhot, santol, and tamarind. Aside from its shape-shifting abilities, the Pugot can also move at great speeds, feeding on snakes and insects that it finds among the trees. It feeds by thrusting food through its neck stump. Although terrifying, the Pugot is relatively harmless. However, the creature is fond of women's underwear and steals them when they're being dried on a clothesline. The Pugot is also found in the Il Fuego myth Tulod Nimputo, the self-beheaded, where he appears to the human hero. He was fed by the hero with chopped chicken meat that was mixed with blood. So I guess the good thing about this is that even though it has incredible power and speed and could be super dangerous, it chooses not to be. Well, unless you're a pair of ladies' underwear, in which case you might be in for it. Actually though, what is up with these Philippines demons? They're just kind of plain creepy, guys. Like, we had the tickle zombie and now we have the headless Demogorgon panty thief. I swear that this legend was just made up by like some super weird guy just as an excuse for why their neighbor's underwear kept going missing. Number 2 on this list is the Batty Bat. This is a very dangerous demon and one that you do not want to piss off. Myths and folklore says in the Philippine mythology, the Batty Bat or Bangungot is a vengeful demon found in Ilocano folklore. These demons were blamed as the cause of the fatal nocturnal disease called Bangungot. They usually come in contact with humans when the tree that they reside in is felled and made into a support post for a house. This causes them to migrate into holes found in the post. The Batty Bat forbids humans from sleeping near its post. When a person does sleep near it, the Batty Bat transforms to its true form and then attacks that person. It sits upon the chest of its victim until he suffocates. To ward off the Batty Bat, one should bite one's thumb or wiggle one's toes. In this way, the person will awaken from the nightmare induced by the Batty Bat. Once again, guys, we just have one of the scariest demons here with also the weirdest caveat attached to it. To ward this thing off, we need to wiggle our toes? Like, are you actually kidding me? I mean, at least this one doesn't steal panties, I guess, so, I mean, that's a thing. Also, this one, unlike some of the others, is actually very deadly. You could easily die from this thing if you're unable to wiggle your toes, which would actually be rather hard considering you're going to be asleep when this thing attacks, you know, so it could be game over. I could totally see how if I was living in the Philippines, this thing would be one of my biggest fears. Like, I would exclusively be living in like a brick house or something. No wooden posts for me. And finally, number 1 on this list is the Ek. This one had to be number 1, and when you hear what it does and how it operates, you'll understand why. Wikipedia says in Philippine mythology, Ek are bird-like human creatures. They are winged humans who search for victims at night. They hunger for flesh and blood. They're usually described as flying creatures that look like the Malinhig but are unable to divide or split their body in the way that that one does. The Ek is also associated with the Walk because of some similar characteristics. The only difference between a Walk and Ek is that Ek has a bird-like bill, whereas the Walk has none. The Ek can transform into a huge bird or bat at night to prowl in the form of. Similar to the Malinhig, the Ek looks for sleeping pregnant women. Then it extends a very long proboscis into the womb and kills the fetus by draining its blood. It's said that while this is taking place, a Ek sound is often heard. The Ek fools people into thinking that it's far off in the distance by producing a faint sound when it's actually really near. What the actual heck, guys? Most of these other demons are derpy dudes looking for underwear and tickles, but this thing? This is for real. Fetuses and blood draining and just, no, I don't want it. How on earth does the Philippines grow in population with these things roaming around? I'd be too scared of having this thing come attack in the middle of the night. And tons of people feel the same way. Many rituals and services are done to try to ward off these creatures. I hope that some of these work, because if they don't, the consequences could be dire.